Ready, set, go.
Yeah, whole team on a loose. Kick it up like Kung Fu. Untamed, yeah, cool. Running plays like who knew. Hella fast when I slide through. You would've thought we was in a zoo. Engine roar like a lion do. Daredevil, I'm a damn fool. Switching lanes, hanging out the roof. Tires screech when I bend the corner. All you see is a big poof. Then I'm leaving my initials. Street marks, I'm official. Taking off like a missile. You can hear the wind whistle.
Yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Hey, yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Ready, set, go. 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 Ready, set, go. 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 Yeah, ready, set, go.
Get into it like pronto, get hit with a combo. Do a large, real jumbo, so dirty like gumbo. Big money in a two-seater, hair blowing, you see her. I got her, you need her. Never would I wanna be and I've been grinding all of my life. Now look at my sights, mile high, I'm fly. Ride till I die. Look how I arrive, like the president inside. See the look in their eyes.
I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Ready, set, go.
Ready, set, go, let's go. Go, on your mark, go. Yeah,
ready, set, go.
Ready, set, go, on your mark, go. Let's go, go,
Yeah, ready, set, go.
Yeah, and you know I like big coupes. Two-seater with the missing roof. Run the meter to a king bull. I'm the best, got them all mute. Break the bank, talking big loot. Business talk, making big moves. Full tank, no I can't lose. Left them in the dust confused. All I ever did was break rules. Full throttle, I don't like cruise. Guess I got a couple screws loose. Son devil, I'm a damn fool. Ain't no telling what I might do. Taking off like a missile. Street marks, I'm official.
Yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Hey, yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Ready, set, go.
ready, set, go, let's go. Go, on your mark, go. Yeah,
Ready, set, go.
ready, set, go, on your mark, go. Let's go, go, let's go.
Ready, set, go. 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 Ready, set, go. 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 Ready, set, go.
All right.
Go. Ready,
Welcome
set,
to the
go.
Lord Radio live stream. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, and today I am joined in the studio by Killer Cast. We got everybody here. First off, we got Jerry Grover in the house with his red tie. What's up, Jerry? And we are joined also by, let me make sure. Oh, no, wrong one. There we are. Brittany the Shadow. Defender of BYU Idaho in the most recent video that we just did. Staunch defender of BYU Idaho. Good job, Bird. You crushed it.
Thank you.
And we're going to be talking about this presentation here. Jerry's going to bring us about how apparently, like, I could not believe this one, but we got it all wrong, people. We got it all wrong. And your thesis, if I'm not incorrect, Jerry, is that Ammon didn't smite off the arms of the Lamanites, that's actually like a misinterpretation, and you're bringing the archaeological receipts to back that up right here, and it goes beyond the whole flocks of birds and turkeys and so on and so forth. Sounds like it's gonna be fun stuff. Am I barking up the right tree? Does that sound about right? Oh, wait. Whoa, why aren't you? Speak again? Wait, maybe I got you on the wrong one. Now say something again.
Got me going.
Which mic is he in? Uh-oh. Say something again. Your mic's not working, bro. I don't know why.
Testing.
Oh, dang it. Are you kidding me?
Everyone sit right there. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
No, we're not going to sit back there and be back there in 5 minutes. Check if his cough drop, that little button, is off. That little blue button. There's a blue disc. It's called a cough drop. It attaches to the microphone, and it's so if people cough, they oh boy. No, you know what, Jerry? Dude, man, are you kidding me? This is happening. I can't believe this. No, don't yell really loud. This is nearly comical, actually. Brittany, can you just do me a favor really fast? And can you give a thank you to everybody who has, can you just talk to people and tell them about our latest donation as I fix Jerry's microphone really fast?
Yes.
Can you take this and tell the story behind it? I wanted to tell a story behind it, but now you get to tell the story behind it.
I'll tell it.
So here you go. Thank you very much. Talk to our audience as I fix Jerry's microphone.
Yes, talking is my favorite thing to do. Also, is my mic on?
Yes.
People, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, look at this. A sweet lady in our ward. Do you see this? She is this crochet? I don't know. She made this tissue. You see? This tissue cover ward radio. This is all done by hand, and it is on every surface, and then the top is like that. I don't know how she did it. I asked her how long it took her, and her only answer was a while. So I'm guessing this took a lot of work. Yeah, I mean, she even has like the little energy waves. Like, this is a force. So anyway, This has been in my car. Now it's in the studio. I think it's my favorite thing I've ever received regarding
if
ward
any
radio.
of you guys have a ward fundraiser where somebody makes something custom just like this, I will totally pay whatever. I think, what did she charge us, babe? It was only like $20, right?
Yeah, it was like part of like some youth auction. And yeah, she said, I make like custom tissue box holders. And we were like, sounds great. And Carden said, can you do a ward radio one? Here's the logo. And she said, I think so. I mean, if she can do this, she can do anything.
Yeah. So God bless Mormon grandmas.
Seriously.
That's all I can say. Jerry, is your microphone working now?
Let's see. Is it working?
Okay, it was the cough drop. It had fallen off the table, and that little device that I pressed, just so you know, if you ever have to sneeze, you can just press that, and it deactivates your microphone, so you can sneeze off camera, and then you can reactivate your microphone when you come back on.
That's good to know. I
But,
think
but won't there be specs on the camera if I sneeze in that direction?
No.
Sneeze into your elbow,
Yes.
Jerry. Everyone knows that.
Okay, cool. So anyway, Jerry Grover, without any further ado, thank you very much to everybody who's contributed this week to the channel. You're keeping us on the airwaves. Jerry, tell us what's going on, my man.
Okay. First of all, I wore the red tie as a sign of bad luck, and it seems like it's working. So,
Why is it bad luck?
no, I'm just kidding. That's why.
Oh, okay,
I'm thinking
cool.
we're cursed somehow.
Well,
Like,
the other guy's flights have been delayed twice by 2 hours, so it might be costing us. But I want to know, what if we're wrong about Ammon? Like, it blew my mind when Bruce Porter said, like, we teach false doctrine all the time. And I was like, well, what? And he said, well, what's the song we always sing when a child is baptized? And I said, oh, I know when I am baptized, my sins are washed away. It is like, if you're before the age of baptism, you cannot sin. So how can your sins be washed away? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'd never actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of profound, right? And it was a moment for me where I was like, oh my gosh, it's like almost when you're in the haunted house and you're walking along and you walk past the wall with all of the specs. And then all of a sudden the dude in the bodysuit that had specs on him like shifts and moves out of hand. And you realized, oh my gosh, he was there the whole time and I didn't notice, and so on and so forth. This, I have a feeling, is going to be one of those things where it's like, oh my gosh, it was there the whole time and I just didn't notice. So Jerry, tell us what's going on and what the theory is. Give us the TLDR, man. What's going on?
Okay. Well, I'll take you down a little, primrose path to get there. We don't want to like do the big reveal, like.
Yeah, well,
5
no,
seconds
just tell us what it is, baby.
Okay, well,
because you're going to tell us what it is, and then you're going to bring the proof, and then we're going to have a fun Ask Me Anything where people can try and stump you.
Okay.
So keep going.
Okay, first of all, this is a different interpretation, so it's not going to like destroy everybody's faith, but I think it makes more sense and actually is more consistent with even the text. So as we've got up here, we've got 3 weapons here. This will become important later on. This is theoretically the sword of Laban, here pictured. Then you have clubs.
Yeah.
And then you would have what we'd call a Mesoamerican sword, macahuitl, or something. That's an Aztec term for it. But that's kind of in the Mesoamerican geographic setting, that is what's considered the swords that they're using. Okay.
Cool.
All right. So, oops, we went too far, didn't we there? So if you want to pop up the slide.
Hit it.
So we need to go a little bit on the background of the sword of Laban. And this is a lot of text, but I mostly just throw it up there so people can follow along a little bit.
Cool.
But as we remember, the sword of Laban is a birthright sword. And you had Don Bradley on here at one point talking about how it probably goes back to Joseph, right?
Yeah.
And then it was passed down to Laban, and then it's passed down as a birthright. Similar to the small plates in the sense that the small plates were only to be written upon by the seed of Jacob, so those were also passed down, right?
Okay.
It was held by people that were military or trained in military, typically. Laban, Benjamin raised it, Nephi raised it in defense of this people. In fact, the way that it kind of talks about Benjamin, it's almost like it's an effigy sword, meaning it's a sword that he holds up and then it gives power to the rest of them, because it says he raised the sword of Laban in defense of the people, like it was the only sword. But it seems like it's something special, right? Okay, it's giving inspiration, whatever you want to call it. If you look at if it is a birthright sword, then you can follow it, right, from Nephi. Benjamin has it, right? Then it does get passed to Mosiah, the second Mosiah.
Okay.
But it is not one of those things identified when Alma took over, because as you remember, the sons of Mosiah, nobody wanted to be a leader. That's, and then they left on their missions, right?
Yeah.
And so it did not go to Alma, neither did the small plates. And so what you have is, where did it go? Who would have the right to that sword? We know that it was in the box, so Moroni eventually got it. It was probably with the small plates that were delivered to Mormon kind of towards the end, right? And Alma was the chief of the sons of Mosiah. Ammon, excuse me. Ammon was the chief of the sons of Mosiah. So presumably he had the right to that sword. And it did say when they went on their missions, when they were departing and they met, that they took their swords and their slings with them. So they brought their own weapons.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about the physical features of the sword of Laban. It's described as most precious steel.
Okay.
The hilt was a pure gold. After the initial arrival of Nephi,
you're saying Ammon cut off the arms of the Lamanites with the sword of Laban?
I think that's probably a likely possibility, as he was obviously trained in the military, right? He just didn't randomly, start swinging something.
Okay.
And I'm also saying that it's possible, and that when they first arrived, 20 years after they arrived, it talked about where Nephi said he had made some swords after the manner of the sword of Laban, right? So it's possible that he made some sort of steel or steel equivalent. It's possible Ammon maybe had one of those, but they were rare. Let's put it that way.
Okay, yeah.
And when Nephi talked about that, there were probably only 100 people in the community at the time. So he said he made many swords. Well, that doesn't mean he made very many, because there weren't that many people.
Yeah.
Jerem notes a couple generations after Nephi that they had iron and steel of some sort, so they still had this steel. But it doesn't really talk about that it was necessarily used as in weapons. It does mention weapons, but it doesn't say, we use this steel to make weapons. So theoretically, you still only had these original swords of Nephi that were the ones that were made of something equivalent to steel. And kind of to understand what Nephi's skill was, it talks about him moltening things, right? And it's spelled Moulton. It's kind of a strange spelling.
Okay.
When he made the tools for the ship.
Yeah.
And then that actual term is found in the 1600s as used in when they made wrought iron. And the technology didn't really exist for him to do much more than make this wrought iron when he's using bellows and that. So it's wrought iron is kind of this gelatinous stuff that you have to pound and get the slag material out of it, and so it's not like it's a difficult, but it's not really steel.
Okay.
And I'm not saying he didn't have the potential to make steel.
Okay, yeah.
But it's kind of interesting because he wasn't able to repair his bow, for example, when it broke, which is a steel.
Okay, yeah.
So it's not quite sure what level of metallurgy he had beyond making pig iron or wrought iron.
Okay.
So, but it's possible he did have that, the capability of making steel. The interesting thing is about 2 generations after, like 50 years after Nephi's original construction, assuming the population growth, he still only had like 100 to 270 people. So it's still, again, even though steel is mentioned at that time, you still don't have a lot of population, right? So even if they were using steel at that point in time, you wouldn't have that many swords. Steel is never mentioned after that. So
Interesting. Okay.
So it looks like that was whatever capability there was early on. Now, let's pop this up. It did later say that King Noah used iron, but it was in a decorative, to decorate the temple, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, in Mesoamerica, there's these iron oxide that they polish for decorative items. So
Interesting.
So it doesn't look like it doesn't look like they're like smelting or making iron. They're using an iron oxide, which they can polish and make into all kinds of decorative items. So what I'm saying is, just because they say iron doesn't mean that they had the capability of smelting iron.
Okay.
Still. Okay. You want to pop up the screen here.
Yeah, I got you.
And I think you've had this. I can't remember if you or somebody else had a discussion of the potential of the sword of Laban being made of Damascus steel, which is a steel that is folded over, and you get these funky designs on it. And that may be why he said it was a fine make.
Yeah, and you could see it. Like the second you looked at it, you knew exactly what you were looking at. Okay.
Now the thing I'm going to bring up is there is a kind, what we know was had in Mesoamerica and other places. The iron that they had was meteoric iron, which is actually an iron nickel alloy as opposed to iron carbon. And it comes from meteors, right?
Yeah. Stuff that's literally falling out of the sky. You got to chase it down, grab a metal detector. All right.
And if you want to bring up the picture here,
yeah,
you can see this is a blade made out of that. It looks similar to the Damascus, actually.
Wait, so they don't need to pound the iron in this sword like they had to pound the carbon to make those designs in the Damascus steel. This is just the way it looks like naturally when it's coming out of the meteor?
Yeah, because it's already kind of, gone through some melting, heating, all kinds of processes. It's coming through the atmosphere and everything. And so it does, not every one of them, but typically they do have this funky design, cool-looking design. Now, they're a little harder to make blades out of, and they're an iron nickel alloy as opposed to iron carbon. But the way that the term steel is used in the Bible, it can mean like anything. It's like copper, bronze. It's just this generic term. So I think this would probably qualify, at least from a descriptive standpoint, if anyone's seeing this, if they knew of Damascus steel or had the sword of Laban, this would look pretty close to it.
Yeah, that is so interesting.
So I think that when they talk about the steel, that's what they're really talking about.
Okay. So I know when I was with Hayden and Jackson Paul on the Stick of Joseph when we went to Israel, it was the first time the antiquities dealer had unloaded a 6th century BC steel sword, and it ended up being Damascus steel. And the date of Damascus steel keeps getting pushed forward and forward and forward because people started realizing, they were actually taking carbon, most likely even just from fires themselves, not from giant smelting machines or, industrial equipment, but by hand pounding carbon into the steel. And that very early on, much earlier on than we had given them credit in centuries past, these people had figured out how to carbonize steel. And it was a major technological advancement, but so labor intensive, it would have been reserved most likely only for like kings and princes and the most wealthy people that had some kind of institutional or tribal power, which would then also drive up the cost, okay, and make it so it's extremely rare, but would then qualify as something that could be taken from Laban, for example, and observed as being a very fine craftsmanship in ancient scripture, and then also be used to identify him as the possessor thereof, of being somebody. Because in First Nephi, for example, it's so odd that he's just able to take the clothing and then people think he's him. Yeah. It's like, I couldn't just take your red tie and then just pass off as Jerry Grover at church. But if I had a giant ceremonial garb, maybe even a ceremonial face covering, mask, or a cloak, or, you know, the sash with the sword, like they still have. Ceremonial swords are a big deal in the Middle East still.
Well, especially if you snored, then they would know it was me.
Boom, shakalaka. You make up a good point. So it's so interesting that hand wrought. Go back to the picture. That hand wrought Damascus steel looks almost exactly like meteoric iron. And all steel is basically it's modern steel now is a mixture of nickel, a couple of like 4 different metals instead of just 2. But anciently, steel really meant, if it was Damascus steel, it was basically iron that was carbonized through multiple layers of heat and then introducing carbon, most likely literally just from the ash from fires. And then nowadays, modern steel, because they try and make it stainless, usually has nickel in it. It also has what's that third metal that they always put in there for stainless steel, and it determines how brittle it is and how easy it is to weld. I can't remember the name of it.
Did you say nickel? Yeah, they have nickel in there. That changes whether it's softer and that.
Yeah, exactly. I thought there was a third one. I can't remember.
Sometimes they put manganese in.
That was the word I was looking for. Yeah. Okay. So you're saying that meteoric iron is literally just iron and nickel that's gone through the heat of a million atmospheres, been expanded and contracted a bunch until it looks like this.
Yeah. And so essentially there's a couple things, like you mentioned, that it's something unique. Now, meteoric iron isn't like everywhere. It's still rare in Mesoamerica and other places.
It's rare everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, it falls. Sometimes they get a big chunk, that they knock pieces off in particular areas. But normally it's a smaller piece, and they have to hunt it down. That's not always easy. But they can see it coming down. Sometimes it starts a fire or something when it hits because it's hot, right? And so sometimes they can, search it out. If it's a flatter area, it's easier because you can kind of see where it comes down. If you're in the mountains, it's like, okay, yeah, somewhere behind those mountains. But honestly, they probably, because it was considered a valuable, even religious, they probably did look for it. Meaning,
that makes sense.
When a meteor came down. And in Mesoamerica, they have all these belief systems. So,
also, out in the middle of the desert, it'd probably be a little bit easier. I know there's meteor hunters that go out into like the Siberian tundra, where it's nothing but just snow and ice for hundreds of miles with giant massive metal detectors, because if you can detect any metal in the ground where humans have not been for thousands of years, it could only have gotten there if Mother Nature was sending down iron, and that had to be meteors. Okay, keep going.
So we've kind of gotten to the point where, and the point I was trying to make here is that you do have a special sword. It's very unique. That they did have some understanding of this special type of metal, meaning not Damascus steel, right? But the Mesoamerica, they knew of these. And so let's kind of get into the Ammon story itself.
Okay, cool.
And there's some kind of unique things. Some of it's just intuitive, right? But kind of when Ammon arrived, he was treated differently, right? I mean, he was bound and brought to the king, right?
Yeah.
Lamoni, but he didn't, it basically says, here's what happened to all the Nephites. They either got killed, retained in captivity, placed in prison, or cast out of the land. Those are the only options if they got a Nephite.
Okay.
All right, that came into the land.
Yeah.
But instead, Lamoni doesn't do that. Lets Ammon choose whether he wants to live in his land or not. It's like giving him special treatment. Hey, do you want to live here or not? You do what you want to do.
Yeah.
He was much pleased when he decided to stay. Why would he be so pleased? It's because clearly he was something different, meaning some higher class of individual. Then what does he do? He offers his daughters to him for marriage, which that's typically only done not only in Mesoamerica, but other places where you're trying to get alliances with other powerful families, right?
Yeah.
Where you're exchanging. Later, I mean, this is kind of after the event where he, served as a servant, but one of the servants of King Lamoni referred to Ammon as Rabana, which this I'm just reading from the Alma 1813, which is being interpreted powerful or great king, considering their kings to be powerful. So meaning the servant was calling him a king, right?
Okay, yeah.
At that point. So it's pretty clear that he was recognized. He had something about him. And I think it's kind of like, well, just like you said, how was Laban? It was the way he dressed, right? That was clear, recognized him as something different. He was a commander. I think Ammon carrying this weapon was also indicative that he wasn't just some run-of-the-mill Nephite hobo, right? So
okay.
Let's bring up the screen. This is kind of just an interesting sidetrack. So incidentally, Rabana, if you look in Sumerian, the exact meaning is Rabbanium, commander or high official.
Interesting. In Sumerian, but that, like, how far would that have?
Well, that's part of an interesting premise is that, in Mesoamerica anyway, you have the Olmec, right, equivalent to the Jaredites.
Yeah.
But the Olmec had kind of stringers out in certain other areas where they did have some influence. And so it's possible you did have some linguistic something going on in that area.
So what's the scripture where he says Rabbani, or like what? I don't have my scriptures. I'm gonna have to go to scripture notes. Hold on. So what's the comparison between what he says to Ammon? Okay, scripturenotes.com. Can you give me those verses really fast?
Yeah, it's Alma 18:13.
Okay, cool. So I'm pulling up scripture notes right now, and I'm going to Alma 18:13. Okay, and can you just read it off really fast? You have it in front of you? Or?
Yeah, it says Rabbana, which is being interpreted, powerful or great king, considering their kings to be powerful. And thus he said unto him, Rabbana, the king desireth thee to stay. So he was going to talk to Ammon, and Ammon was going to go talk to the king.
So that's not a Hebraism. That's a Sumerianism?
Yeah, meaning it actually has almost a direct, meaning straight to Sumerian.
Okay, so and that would also make sense, and it would show that the Book of Mormon was actually translated the way that Joseph Smith said that it was translated, because he would have done it orally, and when writing what you hear, you may spell things differently than the original word was written out.
Yeah, and it may have been, it may have changed a little bit phonetically, you know what I'm saying, slightly. Just with usage. Anyway, that's an interesting aside that I don't think anyone's really noticed.
Wow, that is cool.
And I also think there's something going on there when they are getting names in the Book of Mormon. They're Hebrew, but they also sometimes they have double meanings. Also, they have like Sumerian, like a Jaredite, probably because the people of Mulek, people of Zarahemla, that's where they came from. They lived with the Jaredite people for a couple hundred years before they moved up to land of Zarahemla. So you do see some of the Nephite names are Jaredite, right, or have Jaredite meanings.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
So, and as I mentioned, Ammon has this birthright sword, and even if he didn't possess the actual one, I think he had maybe one of the original ones that Nephi made.
Okay.
Also, it's kind of interesting, the Sumerian construction of Ammon. A is a weapon. Mana is to be great, like a great weapon. So. Okay.
Repeat that. Mana means.
You can bring up my screen. It'll show.
Oh, right here. Okay, cool. Birthright was Ammon. Okay. Interestingly, the meaning of reasonable construction of Ammon in Sumerian is a great weapon.
I'm seeing something. Is there like an invoice showing up?
That's interesting. What?
On your screen. I was thinking some.
No.
Okay.
That's scripture notes right there.
Oh, that's scripture. I can just see. I can only see the very edge of it. So.
No.
There it is.
It says collection notes. It's not. Yeah, no, I'm not in collections right now. That's actually the scripture notes.
Oh, I thought you were just.
Yeah,
I thought you were
that's
hammering
funny.
all the people that didn't pay for your merch. You know?
Oh, geez. No. Actually, you can't make the order of merch unless it clears through PayPal and through Apple Pay. So, no, I don't issue collections for my merch, nor for my sponsors. They're fortunately very dutiful and on-time payers. So, okay.
Well, and then also we always, what I typically do, we want people to listen. So at the end, you're going to have a question, and then if somebody answers, they get a hat, right? We always do that.
If I have any hats behind
Oh,
me,
what have you got? I don't know.
we
Shirts?
we might be out. I don't know. We'll have to find out. Brittany is going to tell us.
I think those tissue boxes are great. Do you have any of those?
Oh, jeez, man. No, they are, but like, I don't know if I can make, let's call her Sister Johnson. I don't know if I can make Sister Johnson do any more of those, man. She spent like 6 weeks on that, dude. Okay. It was funny. So anyway, keep going.
All right. So it's kind of interesting because, okay, he's recognized as being a king, but Lamoni recognizes him as something more, right? He thinks he's the Great Spirit. Now, this is an interesting discussion that I don't think anyone's really had. I had it in one of my books.
Okay.
Is that if you read carefully, the Great Spirit is not the God of the Lamanites. They actually said they had many. They recognize who it is. It's a tradition, but it's referred to as the protector of the Nephites, right? Okay.
Okay, where does it say that it's referred to as the protector of the Nephites?
I'd have to get my other book out, but I don't have
Okay.
it. But it's basically, and if you notice, he's quite, and let's get into this a little bit, because when Ammon arrives, who does he preach to first? He doesn't preach to the king. He preaches to the servants. He calls them his brethren.
Okay.
And they are described not as Lamanites. They're described as Lamanitish. Okay.
Okay.
And I think what you have going on here is these are the remnants through descendancy of some of the Nephites that were left when Mosiah won left. They're in a servant class, right? I mean, when you're in a servant class, especially Mesoamerica, it means you're a different tribe, meaning they've captured or they somehow, you're not of their tribe, or they don't necessarily make a servant out of you.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think what you're looking at here is you have this residual. In fact, Abish, remember later on, she and actually in the printer's manuscript, people say, well, she had a vision of her father's dream, but actually it was without the apostrophe. So it's actually talking about fathers, meaning her generation, her descendancy is where she got the inspiration. So I think what you're looking at here, and that may be why the servant called him king also. He recognized him as a king.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's kind of an interesting, and that's why the king was so worried that he killed all these servants, right? That the Great Spirit was angry at him because he had killed all these servants who had previously,
Has nobody recognized that Sumerian, I don't want to call it a cognate, but that Sumerian connection means like, oh, great weapon?
No, that's just mine. So again, it's not absolutely definitive proof, but it's like consistent, right?
Yeah, it's not like it says, oh, thou long-legged platypus. I mean, saying great weapon to the guy who's known as a warrior that might have carried a ceremonial Nephite sword around and is notorious for having, either disarmed or dismembered the people that would attack the king he was serving's flock. That's that can't be a coincidence.
And then the other thing in Mesoamerica, if you are a king, you are considered, the kings were divine. Not too unlike Pharaoh, right? Where they would take on they were a manifestation of God at times. They'd put on these masks, like bird masks, and the principal bird deities. They're big is the main deity. So when they were accepting him as some kind of god, Lamoni thought, okay, he's something special here, right? After all this has happened, he's recognizing, he's saying he must be He must be some sort of manifestation of either the Great Spirit or a manifestation of the Great Spirit. So this is completely consistent with Mesoamerican thought, which that's kind of what we say the Lamanites really were. I mean, it means unbeliever, but it's the pagan kind of belief system.
So King Lamoni was thinking that Ammon was the Great Spirit because he was recognizing the what we would now call the duality of his mortal kingship that back then would have translated into his divinity.
Right. And I think here's an important thing. In Mesoamerica, the divine implication of the weapon itself in the Maya culture, they believe the weapons are also manifestations of the god. So the god can live in a weapon, or like lightning or powerful weapon, right? And you can probably bring up the screen.
Okay, right here.
And then it has specific gods are linked to specific weapon types. So it's more than just a generic, kind of thing. He's a strong weapon. So it's actually, there's something about the weapon that shows the power or the god or something that they're linked to, right?
Wow, okay.
And you want to bring up the screen again?
Hit it, yeah.
So in the Mesoamerican thought, meteors have been identified with sacred weapons in the Quiche, Nahuatl, Tojolaba, Yucatec, Tzotzil. So meteors themselves are associated with these sacred weapons. So essentially what you have is a meteoric iron look. Either it's meteoric iron, or maybe it's the sword of Laban. It looks like one. And so they're seeing this weapon that has this metal that is associated with gods, right?
Yeah.
When the Spaniards invaded Mexico, they were surprised to find Aztec chiefs that had these knives and daggers made of iron, even though they had no smelting furnaces or anything. And they asked them where'd they get them, and then they pointed up at the sky.
Yeah.
So they were using them too at the time of the conquest.
Wow, wow. This seems almost like too good to be true, but also too easy. Now I know you make it look easy because you speak a bunch of dead ancient languages, but this is just incredible. Keep going.
Okay, so that we get to that premise that okay, he's carrying this sacred weapon. He's considered a god. All these things. Now let's go to actually what happened. I listed the three weapons or showed them at the beginning, right? So we had the sword of Laban, then you had the macahuitl, and then the clubs. Now, when he first went, basically you had the ruffians, whatever you want to call them, that were trying to scatter the flocks, or did scatter the flocks. They were carrying clubs, right?
Okay.
And typically, you have a club. A lot of times they would wrap a strap, so it was almost like attached to their arm, meaning so the way they could swing it, so they're not going to get disarmed, when they're clobbering each other.
Okay.
But it's interesting because if you look at almost all the additional texts of the Book of Mormon, not talking about Ammon, somewhere arm and arms are not your physical bodily arms. They are weapons. When it says arm and arms in the Book of Mormon, so that is the more common use.
So like
the dominant
when Moroni
use.
says, "I'm going to take up arms."
Yes, he's not picking up a bunch of bodies, bleeding arms on the floor.
Okay, no, come on. So first off, two things. First off, don't go messing with my Book of Mormon comic books. Okay, I like the idea that he was chopping off arms.
This is like the coolest story in the Book of Mormon, and now we're gonna be like Disney version.
I told you that. I told you it was going to destroy, at least not totally shake your faith, but it would alter a lot of things.
Okay, so we got
living scriptures. You're gonna have to throw them away. I'm sorry.
Okay. No. Okay, so hold on. I will give credit where credit is due, but I also give challenges where challenges are due. Okay, first off, what are all of the hyper conservative, pro-war, trying to justify their anger and wannabe violence members of our church going to do if you take away Ammon chopping off
Okay, well,
people's
listen to
arms.
this.
Well,
You know,
what he did is he chopped their weapons in half, which is even harder.
Well, so this is what I was going to ask. So it's always seemed a little bit weird to me that he just chopped off the arms, and in the picture of the comic book, it was always like from the shoulder down, as though he'd like surgically severed. Excuse me.
Well, here's a random thing.
Did you hit the cough drop thing or whatever it's called?
Well, I have my own cough drop. It's called the mixer here. But okay, it always seemed weird to me that like, okay, he'd only chopped off the arms. You know, why not something else? Wait.
Well, and let's face it. It said he killed 6 by the sling, and he only killed 1 by the sword. So literally, all the other guys are running around with no arms, bleeding, but they didn't die. Kind of like the Black Knight in Monty Python or something.
Okay, hold on. Listen to this. The Iron Rodcast says, I have taught too many lessons that require the literal cutting off of arms. I choose not to believe this take. Whispers, I still love you, Jerry.
Okay, well, let's bring up my screen. So
Okay.
you can still, you know.
Yeah.
There's a random meme I found.
Wow, Ammon, you chopped off a lot of arms. Please teach me about Jesus.
Meaning that's the thing is, I mean, it's funny, but the reality is what's so unique. I mean, okay, he chopped off somebody's arm. It's much more difficult to actually destroy their weapons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, what about a sword would, well, okay, that would be a little bit more Christian of him to be disarming and de-escalating conflict by eliminating weapons instead of doing bodily harm. So that kind of makes sense. That
and the other thing is they ran away, and then they came back after he collapsed or whatever. You know, when he came under the the spirit and was laying there. They came back and were rebuking. These are the people that came back that were at the waters of Sebas, right? So it's kind of like this doesn't really make sense. They I guess they got their arm. They didn't have any arms. But
I've always wondered, like, what did they do? Just like bob around and then eventually bleed out and die? Or
yeah,
like,
exactly.
What?
I mean, if you get your arms cut off, you're going to walk 10 feet and that's it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It just, for me, even as a kid, I was like, okay, this is like a Samson thing. We're slaying 1,000 guys with the jawbone of an ass. I was like, well, wouldn't like the 100th guy figure out, why don't we just use a bow and arrow or something? We're going up and getting our head bashed in.
Yeah.
What are you going to take away next? The flipping of the tables in Jerusalem? Is that fake too, Jerry? Or what?
That's not really an Old Testament type story, so that's probably okay.
Okay.
But and then the other thing is, so when the and let's go to the second event where, remember, he then left with Lamoni. And then ran into Lamoni's father, right, who got quite angry that Lamoni was taking all this stuff, this caravan of stuff, to go bribe basically the other kings to let the other sons of Mosiah go, which incidentally is interesting. They weren't treated special, the other sons of Mosiah.
That's true. They didn't have the sword.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of, but then he battled him. And then it just basically says he couldn't fight anymore because the strength of his arm was gone, meaning his weapon. And he probably had this, obsidian sided sword, maquidol. And one thing about when the Spaniards came, I mean, they had horses, they had other things. They had a little better armor, even though some of theirs could get penetrated by the big javelins. What the swords, they were afraid of these big broadswords because they would knock because obsidian is brittle, and so they could just hit the edge of the sword, and that's what it says. Use the edge of the sword. That's what Ammon did, and it just knocks the obsidian right off, just busts it right off. And so So and again, so that even in the second battle, it says he battled with a sword, but the same effect, it had the same effect.
So if I were to
why didn't chop his arm off? I don't know, but
so if I were to put this into one sentence, so to make sure I understand this correctly before Brittany catches us up on super chats, you're saying that the well-known and beloved story of Ammon chopping off the arms of the turkeys and or sheep's assailants, the Lamanites, is a mistranslation of the term arms.
Not a mistranslation. We just are interpreting.
Or just a misinterpretation of the terminology of the use of arms.
Yeah.
that he most likely had a ceremonial sword that was made from meteoric iron or Damascus steel of some sort that made him recognizable to the king of the Lamanites as the Great Spirit, which did not mean like the Holy Ghost itself, but meant like the protector of the Nephite people. And that there was a subclass of Nephites that he probably associated with and talked with from previous conquests or previous kingdoms. And since they were in a lower class, it might as well have been a different world, but they probably either linguistically or ethnically recognized him as their own. And then when the Lamanites came and he disarmed them, he wasn't actually cutting off their arms, but he was destroying their weaponry so they could no longer fight him and be a lethal threat.
Yeah, he said he smote off their arms, meaning he knocked them off or cut them, and then they picked them all up and took them in and says, dumped them before the king, says, look at this.
Okay, so I'm going right now.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
it
was going to
does.
say, because isn't there a scripture where it says, like, he brought in all the arms, like, in a bag and laid them at the...
It doesn't say bag, I don't think, but...
or brought in...
Well, either way, then it could be the weapons.
Yeah.
And it's just like the great...
Yeah, so if you read it in that context, yes, you could take... I see how people get that other interpretation. It's not obvious. But this interpretation, number one, it makes more sense. It's actually consistent with the text.
Yeah. Ammon's more like Gandhi than like the Terminator,
Yeah, he's not like just super... Well, and again...
Or he's a warrior in a garden instead of a gardener in a war.
Right. And it's kind of like if he was trying to not kill them. I mean, cutting off their arms is going to kill them. Cutting off their...
Yeah.
meaning, if you... I have to say, when I heard this story, I'm not like I was that thoughtful of a kid, but I always thought this doesn't really make too much sense, to be honest with you. And so as I wasn't really working on this, I was just working on the relics. I was working on, okay, where did the relics go? What happened to them? When I started reading it, it's like, this sounds more like, if you understand the Mesoamerican culture, you can understand what this is talking about, right? That the weapon itself was powerful. That's one reason they thought he was it's like if somebody just cut off a bunch of arms and brings him in, you're going to think he's the Great Spirit. Why?
Okay.
So I mean, it's got to be something more than that.
So right now I am in chapter 20. The Lord sends Ammon to Madoni, deliver his imprisoned brethren. Somebody in the chat put 2020 here, and it says, and he stretched forth his hand to slay Ammon, but Ammon withstood his blows and also smote his arm that he could not use it.
I couldn't use the weapon.
Yeah, if you interpret it, his arm,
arm equals weapon.
But I'm saying people interpret it as the bodily arm. I get that. I'm not saying it's like obvious, but if you look through it, it actually makes sense the other way, which actually is more consistent with
the majority reading of the term arm. You're saying,
yeah, and if you look at the story itself, it's like these guys didn't die, And I actually think it's interesting because. If you look, I can't remember the scripture, but when they came back after Ammon, was unconscious or whatever, and remember that in Mesoamerica they believe these swords even have full lightning that can just kill you if you touch them, right?
Okay.
And so the brother of the one he killed, because it only says he killed one person, that the waters of Sebus with a sword. All the others were sling. He used his sling, and which is kind of interesting. It's like you'd think the sword he'd kill a lot more, just easy stab him or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
But then it says, and if you read that too, it sounds like it says he drew his sword. You think his. It says Ammon's laying there. It talks about Ammon, and it says he drew his sword. But this guy wouldn't. They had clubs. He didn't even have swords, right? And so I think if you read that, I think you can interpret that. He actually drew Ammon's sword, lifted it, and then he died. Because he tried to use this powerful sword that was like a sacred religious.
So what verse would that have been?
Sword of the gods. It's probably 18. 19.
I'm looking at this right now. So here's.
Can you imagine Ammon up there in heaven? All the sons of Mosiah are like, dude, they totally think that like you cut off people's arms. He's like, yeah, I look so BA right now.
Okay.
Dude, I gotta tell you, that is a glow up in terms of reputation.
It's like when people like get like a scar and they're like, "Oh, you should see the other guy." That's what I imagine this is.
So I think it's Alma 19.
Okay, I'm going to Alma 19 right now. I'm right here. We got scripture notes up right here. Alma 19. Lamoni receives the light of everlasting life and sees the Redeemer. His household falls into a trance, and many see angels. Ammon is preserved miraculously, baptizes many, and establishes a church among them.
Yeah, Ammon 19:21 says, and they were also rebuked by those men who had stood at the waters of Sebus and scattered the flock. So it's like these guys are coming back with no arms, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, they had no clubs, but
Yeah, okay.
Like little zombies without.
yeah, for they were angry with Ammon because of the number which he had slain of their brethren at the waters of Sebus while defending the flocks of the king.
Wait, but only one was killed.
Well,
right?
seven were killed, 6 by the sling, 1 by the sword. And the brother of the guy that was slain with the sword. Now one of them, this is 22. Now one of them, whose brother had been slain with the sword of Ammon, being exceedingly angry with Ammon, drew his sword. Meaning, everyone assumes he's drawing his own sword, but I think you can interpret that. Drew his sword and went forth that he might let it fall upon Ammon to slay him. And as he lifted the sword to smite him, behold, he fell dead. So you could interpret that even as the sword of Ammon as opposed to his own sword.
Wow,
That's
interesting. So, and that's consistent, you say, with mythology at the time at worst, or the belief at best at the time that swords actually held a divine power themselves, oftentimes associated with lightning. And similar with like King Arthur, it was believed that unless you were the rightful heir of that, Excalibur, the sword in the stone, that you could not pull it out of the stone because the sword spoke to you, right?
Yeah, they had a whole belief, meaning essentially the belief system, they believe these were manifestations of a particular god. So the powers of that god would also rest in the weapon, right? Because it was a manifestation. And meteors, like I said, those were looked at that way, weapons made of, because meteors were also part of some of the gods. So I'm just saying, if you look at it in this context, it actually makes very good sense in Mesoamerica. It makes good sense,
it clears up some things. Like it makes plenty of sense, fine, but it does clear up. Why did the guys come back? Like with no arms? Like were they just?
It was different. It was different
like,
ones that didn't attack him or something. I don't know. I mean, you could kind of like rationalize it, I suppose.
I know Jared Bell right now is probably making a meme of the Monty Python guy just saying like, "I'm back from the waters of Sebus to seek vengeance upon Ammon."
It's a flesh wound.
Yeah, they would have bitten him.
It's a mere flesh wound.
I'm not dead yet.
Yeah, exactly. So again, I think it makes more sense. It's consistent with the text. It's consistent with the culture. There is one more big reveal.
Oh, gee, there's one more?
Okay, let's pop up my screen.
Okay, popping up your screen. Here you go.
Now,
dude, but can your screens get any more interesting? Like, dog, come on,
I
man.
Know. Well,
that's like, what?
Well,
okay, hold on. I'm going to read a super chat. Kyrie says, Nephi's Tabernacle hits Amazon on July 20th. Paperback and hardcover ebook coming soon.
Oh, what is that called?
Nephi's Tabernacle.
And who's the author?
I don't know. Maybe it's Kyrie himself.
Nephi's Tabernacle book, right? I'll put it up on the screen. The guy gave us a super chat, right? Is it on Amazon or something? What? It's Kyrie.
Coming on July 20th.
Kyrie. I don't know how to spell Kyrie because I can't see this.
K-H-E-O-R-I.
K-H-E-O-R. Oh, Kaori or whatever. I know that guy.
It's Kyrie.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna have to look that up. Keep going, babe. Keep going.
I think I am caught up.
Oh, okay, cool. Super chat's caught up. Okay, your big reveal, my man. You went from boring slide
it's boring.
to big reveal.
It's boring, but just look at the bottom. Let's read the bottom. And sorry, I spelled Ammon wrong here.
Okay, the bottom says interesting linguistic elements.
The very last paragraph.
The very last paragraph. Okay. It says the waters of Sebus, where Ammon defeated and killed the 7 attackers, has a potential Hebrew etymology consisting of SB, meaning the number 7, and bus, meaning to subjugate or trample enemies. Whoa!
Wait, I don't get it.
Well, he killed 7 guys. Excuse me.
At the waters of Sebus. So.
Oh, so Sebus is meaning 7.
Yeah, 7
It literally
seven
means
guys,
this is where we-
seven enemies defeated or trampled or whatever, or subjugated.
So, like, just how some American Indian tribes would name people like Sitting Bull or Raging Eagle or some great accomplishment, like, he who runs quickly or whatever it was. That the place was named, what's the etymology again? Meaning the number 7, and bus meaning to subjugate or trample enemies. So the place where 7 enemies were subjugated or trampled.
Yeah, and there were 6 by the sling, 1 by the sword. So there were 7, which 7 is a sacred number anyway, and as in biblical Hebrew thought. So it's also significant that he killed 7. And again, this would be an after the fact. They're calling it Waters of Sebus. Well, that's because that's what happened there, and so that's what the Nephites call it from then on.
Wow.
Maybe the Lamanites too. I don't know. I mean, they obviously joined they became, followed the Nephite religion, right? And so, anyway, so these are kind of, again, it shouldn't shake anybody's faith, really. That's not what I'm trying to do. I think it should actually make more sense, right, in its setting. And
Okay, what other stories do we have wrong?
This is I found the video, by the way. Also, it looks like Mark D. Holmberg, my first live stream with Ether's Elephant discussing AI and faith, as well as my first book, Nephi's Tabernacle. Okay, so this guy is the one that it looks like I think wrote the book. Here's his Twitter account. I'm seeing it right here. Nephi's Tabernacle. I gotta look. He doesn't have a link for it here. I'm gonna have to keep looking, but at least I know who the face of the author. Now I will continue looking. This is incredible, Jerry. So, is this in another one of those publications that you've already peer reviewed?
No, this
one of
is
your big books, or is this like cutting edge stuff?
Yeah, it's cutting edge. I'm working on a book, so this came up as I was working. I ran into who got the sword of Laban. Okay, because it has to be a birthright sword. It didn't go Alma. It couldn't have gone. Alma was of Nephi's line. Theoretically, maybe Nephi had it right because he got it from Laban, but it was really line of Joseph, which Nephi may have had that. But it seems pretty clear it did not pass. It's never mentioned after that, right, in the Book of Mormon.
Yeah, where'd it go? Are there any theories?
I'm working on that. I've got kind of some. I mean, first the question is who brought the records? Who brought the small plates? See, I think they tracked with the small plates. So whoever brought the small plates, which I have a theory, to Mormon, like everybody was wicked, right?
Yeah. So who brought them the small plates?
Well, except for who was not wicked.
I don't remember who.
Remember, and they're walking around in California helping the church right now.
The 3 Nephites?
Yeah, right. So I suppose one of them also was of tribe of Joseph.
Interesting.
And so
that would make sense though that they'd be of the tribe of Joseph because the original brass plates, the Nephites, the so on and so forth.
And I don't have it worked
We're
out
all
yet,
Josephite.
but I do think there is one that actually his name we know the name of the 12 disciples. It would we don't know the 3. Mormon says he's not going to tell us that.
Oh, yeah, but we do know the name of all the 12, so we can only surmise that at least 3 of them are of the 3, and one of those is Josephite, is what you're saying?
Yeah. And also, see, Mormon was as well. I think Mormon, the way he talks, because he always talks about Joseph and Jacob, well, he talks about them in context of the Old Testament, right?
Okay.
But he says he's a pure Lehite. Not a pure Nephite, so that means he has multiple. So he's not Zoram. That's not a line.
Okay.
He's not Laman. He's not those guys. Laman, Lemuel, Ishmael.
Okay.
So you really only have a few to choose from, right? Nephi,
Yeah.
Jacob, and Joseph, and Jacob. So we know he's Jacob because he wrote on the small plates. The words of Mormon were written on the small plates, so he had to be of the tribe of Jacob. That's what gave him the right. That's part of what my book is showing is he had the right to write on those plates when he got them. That when he wrote extra words of Mormon on the small as part of the small plates because and if you look closely, there were a few different things that when Nephi gave them to Jacob says it has to be go through the seed of Jacob. They have to be touching on only touch lightly on the history and talk about the prophecies, etc. And if you look at what Mormon wrote, he says, well, I got these, and I was working on the abridgment. And then he goes on and starts adding stuff, right? He starts talking about the sword of Laban that was raised by King Benjamin. That's where he writes it.
Okay.
After he got it.
Interesting.
And then he writes about prophecies, the prophets. So he's actually, if you look at his entry on the small plates, it matches the requirements that all of them were supposed to do that wrote on the small plates. Now, some of them didn't do a very good job, Kamish, some of them weren't very righteous, but they did write the minimum. They kind of wrote a few little things. So what I'm saying is that he wrote on it. Also, my premise is that a lot of people have talked about, hey, well, how did Mormon know exactly where to stop? Because he stopped right where the 116 pages that were lost, begin. What I'm saying is, actually, if you read what the Lord said, he said, translate up to that point. There was Mormon wrote more info on the small plates than we have. They only translated up to the point where they needed to tie into Benjamin. That's what God told them to do. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
And so it's possible Moroni even wrote some additional on the small plates before he sealed them up. In fact, it is interesting because if you look at the last chapter of Moroni, somebody else has done this, but you can find basically the kind of the statement from each of the people that wrote, significant people that wrote on the small plates, including Mormon, like phrases or quotes from them in Moroni 10. So Moroni 10 is actually kind of, he's taking the small plates and he's writing, his own thing, but he's actually inserting and making sure that all of the individuals that wrote on the small plates are included in that. I think one reason is it's probably maybe the small plate sat right under it. So in fact, it was kind of a dedication, if you will, recognizing the small plates as part of the plate record. So and that's a whole nother, but that's part of my book that I'm working on, all these kinds of things. So
wow. Okay. So can you steelman anybody that would argue against your idea? First off, that Ammon, that the true interpretation is the traditional interpretation that Ammon smote off the arms of his enemies, meaning the physical appendages. Can you steelman their arguments against your arguments that that's kind of a misinterpretation?
Well, I think they're just reading smote off the arms to mean, they're just taking a different interpretation of that term, which could mean he smote off the weapons, meaning. And then also, I think if you read, I think mine is a little better interpretation where it says the king hammered and then he just lost the strength of his arm. It's like, well, okay, he just couldn't move his arm anymore or something. Meaning it's like, no, the weapon got knocked, meaning the blade got knocked out.
Broken. Yeah.
Yeah, and it says that he used the edge of his sword, So, I don't think there's anything obvious. There's nothing in the Book of Mormon that I can see that would be inconsistent with this interpretation. Of course, like you say, anybody that's selling a comic book or something, I think even Brad is writing one that probably has the bloody bloody arms.
Brad's gonna have to make a choice, man.
I was gonna meet with him before just to
dude,
so I wouldn't shock him.
I'm designing a video game right now. When we get to the Ammon section, we're gonna have a big. There are two.
We'll just go 50-50. Limbs and weapons. That way everyone's happy.
So he did, but he didn't cut off, just like half of them, maybe. Okay.
Dude,
because it didn't say how many arms they brought, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other connections to these names that you brought up? So I thought it was intriguing. Two questions here. First off, do you remember where your reference is to the Great Spirit, meaning the defender of the Nephites, the Nephite Great Spirit?
Yeah, I'd have to bring up my...
Yeah, take your time, because the second one, too, is it's intriguing that you say, okay, Rabbana literally means Sumerian for great warrior or whatever your translation was. previous to this podcast, I hadn't even thought about what Rabana means. I'll be honest with you. I just read past it.
Isn't that just like a basic?
Is that a word that people have kind of traditionally understood to mean something else, and you're the one shedding light on this?
There's some people who looked at it in Hebrew have kind of constructed something similar. So it's not, but this one is just actually better, more direct. So
okay, and you think that might be a wink and a nod to the much more ancient roots of the Nephite civilization coming from 600 BC? Because were there people in 600 BC that would have been still speaking oral Sumerian, or would have been just written by then, or a dead language by then?
Kind of my theory is that whatever it got translated, they're basically, we may have gotten a phonetic version of, it may not be this exact phonetic that they were talking about, but the glyph forms may have meant that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so there's some people that say, like, for example, even Moses, just the name of Moses hints at an Egyptian root to, even if you were just to be cynical and say, oh, it's just an origin myth, not based off a real person, then people would say, okay, well then why is the mythical name actually have Egyptian roots? Just like you have Tutmosis and things like that, or Ramses and so on and so forth. That configuration, that linguistic configuration, is very Egyptian in both how it writes and it sounds. So some people say, okay, I mean, even Dan McClellan himself talked about 3 years ago, back when he was much more positive in his outward-facing content towards the church, was talking about how even the essence of the name Moses kind of, I wouldn't want to say as a wink and a nod, but it signals, that's a better term, Egyptian origins. So you're saying that Rabbana does. Some other people had thought that maybe it could be Hebrew, but you think a Sumerian origin is a little bit more interesting, which to me doesn't necessarily mean it is a truly Sumerian. Like, something can mean something in Spanish, and then it sounds pretty similar in Latin. It doesn't mean it dates all the way back to Latin.
Yeah, and it's possible that even the Hebrew could have derived from it through Akkadian or something. I'm not saying, but it's just interesting how it's like a much better, it's almost a direct, you know what I'm saying? So direct, meaning that we're told the meaning, and then you look at it in Sumerian, it's the exact meaning. And that's not just like a one syllable word. That's a more complex word, right? So you'd say, hey, why would that mean?
Okay.
It's not necessarily by chance.
We've got 5 minutes left on this subject. And then, guys, if you have any questions for Jerry Grover, like, my mind is a puddle of goo right now. And I just feel like I have to process all this. But we're going to keep the lines open for anybody that has a super chat. If you got a question for Jerry Grover, rattle us off all the questions that you have. As long as it's germane to the conversation, it's appropriate. We'll just have a little bit of, I guess, 5 minutes here of just ask me anything. If you got a question for Jerry Grover, if you want to stump him, you think he's full of crap, send it our way. If you want to just tell him how great he is, that his book saved your testimony, and you want to give him your eldest son, or what's a tributary thing that's often given in ancient civilizations, half of your land, your daughter in marriage, like Genghis Khan, you know what I'm saying?
A gold sword would be great.
A gold sword, preferably one with ceremonial power that only him and or King Arthur can wield. Or apparently the guy that's angry about his brother getting slain at the waters of Sebus. Which, by the way, isn't sebum or sebus the technical word for pus underneath the human skin?
Sebum.
Sebum. Oh, okay. I was about going to say, like,
I think it's not. It's just the oil that gets under the, like a oil. It's oil that clogs your pores.
Yeah, your sebaceous gland.
Yeah, exactly.
Carter,
like your
do you need
sebaceous.
some water?
Yes. Why? Thank you, babe. I'll preferably not on top of the computer.
Well, it's closed.
Yeah, sorry, I can't find this
okay,
reference because my phone, my internet,
Yeah.
The data is so bad. I can't get. I only got like one little bar, so I can't download.
Oh well,
my
no,
book.
just connect to our Wi-Fi, bro. You ready for the password? Okay. Hold on, all microphones are off. All microphones are off for for like 5 seconds, and we're going to the thumbnail. Give us 2 seconds.
I think I remember that. So
Yeah,
let's
okay,
see.
now we're
Is it-
back
Well, wait,
live.
is it the Ellis family?
Back-
Is
No, it's the hold on. Here we are. Hold on. Okay, you got it? All right, sweet,
okay,
sweet.
so let's see if I can bring this up.
Okay, so now that we know the password is Ammon did nothing wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So,
So I'll be looking for it while if there's some super chats or something.
yeah, okay,
well, here's
cool.
one from Kyrie. He says his book that he wrote, the book explores how Nephi's journey paralleled the sacred pattern of the ancient tabernacle of Moses. It's not live yet, though.
I want to hear what you got to say. Corey, come on the show.
Yeah,
That's
Kyrie.
interesting.
I'm actually working on something similar, not exactly that, but
Okay.
about the path that
Is that the
The
map
Le-
I was talking to you about, hoping to get?
the Lehites, when I'm talking about in the Arabian Peninsula, right?
Yeah.
And the Red Sea. So
Okay.
basically looking at more of the Exodus stops. there.
Okay, so you
I mean-
think that Nephi would have mirrored, if I remember, we talked about this on another episode, Nephi would have mirrored where Moses went in his Exodus, that he would have kind of almost reverse engineered that and gone to some of the similar places, including the gold mines of Solomon in order to get the gold for the golden plates.
Yeah,
right?
it's mentioned in the Fayette Lapham account that he went to get gold to start his plates. So he went to get copper or brass to finish off some of the brass plates, that they had. But then further, when they were further on their journey, they went to get gold. So,
Wow.
I mean, that again, it's Fayette Lapham. There are some errors in it, but
Okay.
it's like that's not something that would just be
Not
made
something you
up.
just make up. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. Okay, any other super chats, babe?
Nope, we're caught
No,
up.
we're all caught up. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Awesome. All right. That is incredible. As a little bit of an outro, before I put up some of the pubs here, is there any archaeological evidence or any other things besides Fayette Latham's interview that would lead somebody to think that he went to that gold mine of Solomon to get the gold for his own plates? And what's the history of that gold mine?
Well, it's actually known. It's still even mined today. It's the mines of Solomon. It's actually on close to the frankincense trail, right? So it's not like he's going that far off.
It's still mined today? I don't remember that. I'm looking this up. The mines of Solomon?
Well, the area, I mean, it was mined out. The way gold mining works is the old areas get mined higher grade, but as the technology improves, they can get ore that has low concentrations of gold and extract it. So that's what I'm saying. So they have gone back in and are mining certain portions of it. I mean, it's a
Okay.
trend. It's not just like one hole in the ground, right? So
Okay. Unfortunately, when I look it up in Wikipedia, as you can see right here on your screen, it's also a book written in 1885, which is a popular novel.
yeah.
And that is what dominates all search results.
It's also
So
it's also a movie too, right?
I don't
the
know.
mines
Is
the
it?
Mines of Solomon or something.
Okay, interesting. But what
Douglas.
country is it in? Like, I'm trying to find this right here so I can see a picture.
Well, I think they put it in Africa or something
the
in
mines
the
of-
movie, but that's not right.
Okay, but you say, oh yeah, it says Patrick Swayze. Oh my gosh, King Solomon's Mines. There's a 1950 and a 1985 film.
Yeah, see, that
Jeez.
that dates me quite a bit.
Oh
but,
yeah. So are the King Solomon's Mines? Is this in Jordan? It would. Where would this have been? 'Cause
it's
he's-
down by Medina, kind of like Mecca.
So it's in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
Saudi Arabia.
just like Western Arabia along the
Okay, the legendary Mines of Solomon, or the biblical Ophir.
right.
Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are believed by some to be located in Saudi Arabia, specifically at a site called, oh boy, Mad ad Dahab, right there. Okay, meaning cradle of gold. In this area situated in the Hejaz region between Mecca and Medina, you're right, has yielded significant gold deposits and was mined in ancient times. While the Bible mentions King Solomon obtaining vast quantities of gold from Ophir, the exact location has been debated for centuries. According to the New York Times in 1976, some geologists believe that the mine at Mad ad-Dabab could have produced the gold described in biblical accounts. Okay, and here it is. Holy smoke. You are not joking. This is going straight to Saudipedia.com, which I did not even know exists.
There you go.
All right. But the second mining period, wow, they are going to town on this mine still to this day. Okay. Wow. This is incredible. So now, before we go, I got to know, you've been able to trace. Okay, the Sword of Laban was returned, right?
Well, there's no mention of it, but obviously it was in the box. I mean, the preservation box with the plate stack.
Okay, is it possible that the Sword of Laban was not returned? I'm trying to remember my relics now.
Well, it was described. It was on the as part of the relics that were shown to them. But Joseph Smith doesn't really talk about it, whether he left it in the box for a while, Moroni took it or something. But it was there. It was the breastplate. I mean, it is a little bit vague. It doesn't really talk about it when he
was the Urim and Thummim returned.
Well, yeah, that would. I mean, yeah, I think he just mentioned the Urim and Thummim was returned, and the way it was described by Joseph Smith Sr. and again in this Fayette Lapham is that the interpreters actually sat. There's a little lid on the top of the plate stack, and the interpreters were in that. So they were sealed up. Technically, that's what Moroni said. He sealed them up, so they were actually part of the plate stack in the plate stack.
Okay. So
because they had to go with the plates of the brother Jared.
No,
too.
I get that,
not the
but
plate or the record anyway.
So now my only question is, so we don't know what happened to the Sword of Laban. That could still be in the granite vault with the Book of Joseph.
Yeah, they haven't let me in yet, but
it's just senior manager.
Yeah, I'm probably on the list of people that they don't want to let.
But so do you think Ammon's sword would have been the Sword of Laban, or just one of the ones constructed similar to the Sword of Laban?
I think it probably was, because I'm saying he was the rightful bearer of it, or recipient of it. The way, not necessarily the oldest, but he was the chief. It says he was the chief, administered to the other three sons of Mosiah. So I don't know that he held it the whole time, because I think one of the other sons of Mosiah, this is what I'm working on, was named Aaron, right?
Yeah.
And Aaron in Hebrew means keeper of the temple relics.
Interesting.
So I think maybe he actually had the small plates and kept everything. Meaning, at some point, Ammon wasn't using. I mean, I don't know. At some point, he may have just put it in the temple or something, right? I mean,
okay,
it was a sacred relic, so he probably didn't carry it ever. In fact, I think maybe even it gained more notoriety, by him using it. Again, this is all just total conjecture, But
okay, last super chat from Alicia Brown, and then we're probably gonna shut her down, babe. What's the last super chat from Alicia Brown?
Okay, she says, promoting the mid-singles channel in the Discord for Danny Gray if you're a mid-single wanting to meet other mid-singles from all over the world.
Wow, and boy, we're gonna have some success stories coming out of that pretty soon. You know what I'm saying? That's I've heard some word on the street fun stuff. So yes, thank you very much, Alicia Brown, for your contribution. Beloved moderator of the Discord, if you are not part of the Discord yet, you have to become part of the Discord. We are very grateful for all the help of everybody that helps us out on that platform, and it is a ton of fun. And Jerry even pops in on the Discord sometime to answer questions, provide insight, contextualize things, so on and so forth. So, all right, gonna put on a little bit.
Okay, Alma 19:27.
Okay, I'm pulling it up. Alma 19:27, hit it.
And there were some who said that Ammon was sent by the Great Spirit to afflict them because of their iniquities, and that it was the Great Spirit that had always attended the Nephites, who had ever delivered them out of their hands.
Oh, interesting.
So that is the Nephite God, right? He's the protector of the Nephites. So they probably had some idea of him. Maybe he was even in their pantheon or something.
Okay, so this is Alma 19 what?
27.
Oh, I was at 19:7. Alma 19:27. Okay. Yeah, and there were some who said that Ammon was sent by the Great Spirit to afflict them because of their iniquities, and that it was the Great Spirit that had always attended the Nephites. Wow, I never noticed that phrase right there before. who had ever delivered them out of their hands, and they said that it was this great spirit who destroyed so many of their brethren, the Lamanites.
So when they would fight the Nephites, that's who the
yeah,
God,
it's like, why do
who
these
was
guys
protecting
keep
them.
getting bailed out, man?
Yeah,
wow.
and so so that was the God, because I always said, our God protects us, Nephites, and then they win ultimately. So.
Dude, that is intriguing. All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you want to support the channel, please consider buying a shirt, or you guys can get one of the cool War in Heaven veteran hats. Jerry, are there any War in Heaven veteran hats on the shelf behind you? Babe, did we sell those all out this week?
We are sold out of all hats.
Dang it, we're sold out of all hats.
Yeah, we got beanies.
Oh, you got beanies still. Okay, we still got the beanies. We are going to be ordering hats now that we're sold out. We're going to have to order another batch here coming up pretty soon. If you want a hat, make sure that you check them out. And you guys put in a back in stock request, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
And I've gotten a lot of those emails for different things, not just the hats. So put in a back in stock request, because you will be first in line once the new ones do hit the shelves. It sends out a buttload of emails, and whenever I get these back in stock request things and I put something back in stock, like half the stock is sold right off the bat just from people that responded to that email. So if you guys want to contribute to the channel just directly, please consider a contribution through Zelle. We greatly appreciate that. We got one of those today, actually. Babe, you got my phone?
Yep.
Yeah, can you pull up the Chase app and just give me a name so we can give a little bit of a shout out? You don't have to tell me the amount or anything else like that.
I don't know if I can, because we don't have the same face.
Oh, okay. Not the same face. Oh, we'll just hand it over to me. I'll do it.
Okay.
Because we will also put a pub in right now for Venmo. If you guys want to contribute to the channel as well, you can also use Venmo. Another thing that's super cool is M. Murphy, you gave us something again, and it was so helpful, but I don't have the little poem that you wrote, but we received the machine table that you sent in. Thank you very much. Amazon, we have an Amazon wish list, and you get these super cool little papers that come in the mail whenever you received a gift. A lot of our items are contributions through the Amazon wish list. If you guys want to help the show, please make sure you check out the Amazon wish list. And before I go, I got to make sure I give a shout out to those who have contributed to the channel. Thank you very much, Monsieur Barker. Thank you very much for your contribution. From the Barkers, we very much appreciate that. Your guys's super chats, purchasing the merch, watching the video, putting up with the commercials, et al. Is what keeps this channel going. So thank you very much, Brittany, for hanging out with us. You've been a phenomenal keeper to the chat. Jerry, where could people find you and your work if they want to read more?
It's just www.bmslr.org. If you can't remember that, just do a search on Geology of the Book of Mormon and my name, and it will come up. So,
okay, cool, awesome. And I don't know about you, but I am convinced. Apparently, guys, we just done got it all wrong, and he literally just disarmed them instead of disarming them, and it was a sight to behold. So thanks so much for hanging out with us, guys. It's been real, it's been fun, it's been real fun. For this and more, please make sure you guys check us out at wardradio.com.